Maybe it's because I come from a place with consequences, but I ain't shocked by the Charlie Kirk shit at all. Where I'm from, right or wrong, if you do things that negatively impact other people's lives, there's a chance that could cost you your life.
The point is that it's so materially insane to think that 1 in 5 American women will be raped in their life.
It is, I agree.
No, meaning that they're lying about being raped, that they're lying about being sexually assaulted.
You believe that people lie about being
sexually
this feeds into what I was...
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Immaculate. If you're new here, please do well by subscribing, okay? Let's grow the family. I just don't know what to say about all these Charlie Kirk's reactions of people, because I think one thing that has stood out is he never had sympathy or empathy rather for people from his remarks. And I think some people are just rejoicing that he's dead and people took it to heart. I don't know, I'm just like, I'm sharing it with you. Let me know, what do you think? Was Charlie, well, how can you categorize Charlie really? Let me know. I'll be back with my own thoughts.
Sorry, are people actually feeling sorry for Charlie Kirk, the guy who made a career out of despising anyone that wasn't straight, white and male and encouraging other people to do what he was doing? I mean, look, feel free to feel empathy for him, but this is what the guy you're mourning thought about that.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up new age term that does a lot of damage, but...
You know what else does damage, Charlie? No, we shouldn't go there. I mean, that being said, this is what Charlie said about people who lose their lives to guns in America.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal.
Yeah, that one worked out for him, didn't it? Look, spare us the faux sympathy and outrage that people aren't feeling remorseful that Charlie Kirk is no longer alive. He was evil. Charlie Kirk was pure evil. And the world is a better place without people like Charlie Kirk in it. And you can boo me for saying that, but deep down, you know that I'm right.
Charlie Kirk was a horrible person, but do I think that he deserved to get murdered? No. Are you a bad person for not feeling empathy for a man who felt no empathy for millions of people? No. It's not a cut and dry situation. It's not a black and white situation. Thousands of people were affected by this physically, who were there, who witnessed what occurred. His children were there and they witnessed what happened. Murder is wrong. I'm not going to say that it's not. But he was a man who spewed hate and violence. He said that gun violence deaths were worth it because you got to keep your right to have a gun. You know, he said that he would make his child carry a baby to term if she was SA'd and became pregnant from it. He said that if you feel empathy, that inherently makes you weak. He spewed so much hate on so many marginalized communities. He spewed hate on anybody that he could spew hate on. Homophobia, transphobia, anti-Semitism, racism, misogyny. You know, I could continue. I could go on and on. He was a very, very, very hateful man. Filled to the brim with hate. Filled to the brim with hate. And his last words were those of violence. You know, there's no right or wrong way to feel about it. You're not a bad person if you don't feel empathy for someone who felt empathy for nobody. And you're also not a bad person if you do, because as humans, we're wired to feel empathy. You know, and it's not black and white. You're not wrong for feeling how you feel. They're not wrong for feeling how they feel. What is wrong is making other people feel bad because they don't feel how you feel. There's no right or wrong way to feel about this situation. There's no way to feel about this situation that makes you a bad person. Everybody feels how they feel. Having an opinion is valid. Not having an opinion is valid. Everybody feels differently about it. And I don't think that any way that you feel about it is bad unless you're spewing hate. Making somebody else feel bad for not sharing your opinion is just not, it's horrible. It's not going to do anything. Nothing will change what happened. What happened, happened. And murder's wrong. Murder's wrong. And at the end of the day, that's a pretty horrible way to go out. And for all of the people who witnessed it, you know, thoughts and prayers. What else am I supposed to say? Thoughts and prayers. That's all that they had to say to the children who were dying and the families of the children who were dying. The victims. So many victims. Thoughts and prayers. That's all I can say.
Maybe it's because I come from a place with consequences, but I ain't shocked by the Charlie Kirk shit at all. Where I'm from, right or wrong, if you do things that negatively impact other people's lives, there's a chance that that could cost you your life. Like, say you put hands on your old lady. She goes back to her parents' house, beaten and bloody, and then her little brother sees it, decides he's had enough. He goes over to that house and he puts 3 in your chest. Ultimately, he's dead because the little brother decided to pull the trigger, but we're gonna act like the hillbilly didn't have no part to play in that? Or maybe it's because I'm on the side that has historically had all of the consequences heaped upon them. Like, we're the ones who always get assassinated. Harry T. Moore, Medgar Evers, Huey Long, Harvey Milk, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton, the list goes on. None of them wanted to die. And to be sure, they died because someone came and pulled the trigger. They didn't make that decision. But we're going to act like that decision wasn't visited upon them because they decided to challenge the status quo, because they decided to negatively impact the ruling class? Now I've got a situation where I have an individual who has spent the last decade trying to strip the humanity away from everybody that he deemed lesser, out here impacting the lives of thousands, if not millions of people negatively, and I'm supposed to pretend like there are going to be no consequences. Again, whenever you do the type of things that impact, you don't know how you're impacting people's lives. You have no idea what your words or how they will affect somebody. We recognize this as leftists. I understand there's going to be people who don't like the shit that I have to say. It's cops right now who would love to put me in a bag. I get that. I go do it anyway because I believe that what I'm talking is worth dying for. I hope that Charlie Kirk feels the same, because whenever you get out here and you do the type of things that impact people negatively, you need to expect that those people you negatively impact are going to come visit consequences upon you. For right or wrong, it doesn't matter. In my world, that's the reality, and you should expect that it's going to come whether it does or not. I expect my retribution to come from the ruling class. Charlie Kirk is going to have to look out for it from every minority group that he's ever demonized. Moral of the story is, if you're going to be out here trying to impact people's lives negatively, you better believe in what the fuck it is you're fighting for. As always, bro, I appreciate y'all taking the time. Much love. Y'all have a good one.
To the people upset that Charlie Kirk got, you don't actually stand for anything meaningful. I feel like people are like, oh, he just said some stuff. He didn't really deserve to get got. And it's like, he didn't just say stuff. He was an active contributor into the rise of authoritarianism and to getting Donald Trump in power. He has direct influence as to what we're experiencing now and who's getting hurt by what we're experiencing. No, but this sadness and outrage is just silly to me, because I know these same people, like, when it comes to families and children getting separated at the border and then children getting abused and locked up, silence. They don't give a fuck. When it comes to immigrants and even citizens getting put away into detention centers where they're being mistreated and abused, nothing, nada. When it comes to Southern women who are getting forced to give birth, and now we have a dumpster baby epidemic in Texas, who really cares, right? But the person who has directly influenced this kind of suffering unto others by getting Donald Trump into office and making a bunch of money off of it, he's a grifter. When he gets got, these same people are like upset. Like, they have a lot to say about that. They just don't stand for anything.
Regardless of how you felt about his politics, Charlie Kirk shouldn't have been killed for having an opinion. He wasn't. He was not. I don't know where you guys are getting that. Every single human being on Earth has an opinion. I have opinions. You have opinions. So let's get this straight. He wasn't killed for just having an opinion. Technically, we don't even know the exact reason that he was killed, but if we want to start making assumptions, I would probably guess it's because he was an extremist. I would probably guess it's because he's an extremist who built his entire career on spreading racism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, Islamophobia. Like, you guys are acting like I don't know, are we not realizing that he had one of the biggest Republican Trump-supporting platforms probably ever? Built his entire career on being a dick. Built his entire career on being an asshole. So not only did he have these negative, terrible, evil, hateful thoughts about other people, he made a career out of it. He continued to spread it every single millisecond he got the chance. And in his last moments, his last words were those filled with racism. He was not a good person. I don't understand why you guys are trying to have some kind of empathy competition, and it's just weird because you guys are the same people who don't say anything about the genocide in Gaza, don't say anything about the ICE raids. You haven't said anything about any school shootings in the past few years. Now all of a sudden you guys are all gun right advocates. I just want you to know you look so dumb. It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for for you, seriously. This is way more than him just being a bad person, honestly. He was a terrible person, Like, what's not clicking? Then I'm seeing some of y'all turn around and be like, if you think that it should have happened to him, then you're just as bad as him. First of all, no one's saying it should have happened to him. Like, okay, maybe some people are saying that, but the majority of people are not saying it should have happened. No one should be a victim of gun violence. No one should. That's what we've been saying for years. But the fact of the matter is, it happened. It's done. It happened. And people are allowed to not grieve a terrible person.
I feel like what a lot of people don't understand is that just because people aren't posting about the violent crimes that are going on doesn't mean that they don't care. A lot of people just don't have the capacity to get online and argue with strangers all day, because often we don't feel like we have a powerful enough voice, a powerful enough platform to reach the people either committing these crimes or the lawmakers that are supposed to help us prevent it. A lot of people are interacting with the Charlie Kirk murder because of the response it's getting. It's not because Charlie Kirk was murdered. I guarantee if he was just murdered and everyone was like, wow, that's horrible, everyone would just be like, wow, that's horrible, and move on with their day, bring it up to their family and friends. But the reason that people are bringing it up online is because they're not trying to reach the people that committed it. They're not trying to reach the lawmakers. They're trying to reach you, the viewer, who is sitting here lacking empathy because you hate a man that lacks empathy. Let us discuss the contradiction. As much as I didn't like the guy, the difference between Charlie Kirk and any extremist on either side was that he gave a largely viewed platform, which he could have used for himself because it was large enough that he could have just done podcasts and spread shit all day long. And he still would have made money off of it. But instead, he did what he loved, and that was debate. And debate is the art of communicating non-violently, opposing arguments. And that is the whole point of it. He wanted to give an opportunity for his voice to be heard and our voices to be heard. And to celebrate his death is to celebrate losing not only his voice, but the opportunity for educated people to come forward and share similar voices to yours.
Where the fuck is this energy for children and people of color who were killed by guns the same way that Charlie Kirk was? Why the fuck is Charlie Kirk getting a flag at half-mast over his murder when there were literal children who were murdered and literal people of color who were murdered every fucking day by guns? Didn't he say that gun murders are gonna happen in order to protect your Second Amendment? I'm sorry, but you get to eat your fucking words with this. Because we don't give a fuck the same way you didn't give a fuck about the kids and the people of color who had the same thing happen to them.
So Dean Withers just apologized for having sympathy for the passing of Charlie Kirk. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I try not to be political on here, but I just find that to be absolutely hypocritical from a party of people that say that they value not just human life, but the difference of opinions and freedom of speech. For someone in that platform to say that these are their values and act upon them in a video by having sympathy for a passing of a human being and then going back and apologizing for having sympathy of being human. Here's my take. I don't agree with Dean Withers, but I would absolutely have sympathy for him and his family if anything were to happen to him, and I do not wish anything evil on him, because even though we have different opinions, I am human and I don't want ill for anybody in that regard. Crazy concept, right? And he's upset because people took something he said out of context, which sounds very similar to what a lot of them do for most things that Charlie Kirk said. Taking it out of context and labeling him as something that he never was. I really need to get off this app sometimes because the hypocrisy is honestly kind of brain frying, because it makes me really question humanity and the potential for evolution with our species, with the way that we are lacking critical thinking skills, sympathy, and introspection.
It is worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some deaths in the United States so that we can have the Second Amendment. That is a quote by Charlie Kirk. Another thing he said was, I think empathy is a new age term that is causing a lot of damage to our society. Okay, Charlie. You said it. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel deeply for his family. There are people that cared about this man, and their pain is going to be monumental. And I feel for them. I really, really do. But try as I might, I just cannot feel bad about the loss of someone who has spread so much hate and made a career out of trying to take people's rights away. I just can't do it. I tried. I cannot do it. I'm sorry.
I can't stand the word empathy. Actually, I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that...
Charlie Kirk didn't believe in empathy at all. If you watch that video, he goes on to say he believes in sympathy. Let's talk about the difference. Sympathy is when you're on the edge of someone else's experience. You're outside of it looking in going, I'm so sorry for your experience and what you're going through. Empathy is more like stepping into another person's shoes and feeling with them, feeling what it feels like to be in their experience, not outside their experience. I will always wonder if Charlie Kirk or anyone like him who doesn't show empathy, because that's obvious in his videos, he doesn't show empathy, and a lot of talking heads that are radical and talk against groups and discriminate against groups and add to discrimination against groups, they don't have empathy. They don't have the capacity to. If they did, it's likely they wouldn't be able to say the things that they're saying. And you can say, well, Charlie Kirk hired trans, he hired women, he hired black people. That doesn't mean he had empathy for the things that he was saying or for the people that worked for him. That doesn't have any meaning at all, other than he hired them to be a part of his team. That he may have had sympathy and felt sorry for them, but he didn't have empathy. His words, not mine.
It makes sense if you don't feel a deep well of empathy for someone who made a career out of refusing to show it for others. I want to normalize that, because sometimes when a public figure dies, especially in a tragic way, people rush to say, you have to be compassionate right now, don't speak ill of the dead. But if that person spent their life dismissing other people's pain, mocking it, minimizing it, even actively contributing to it, it makes sense that your empathy tank might run dry. That doesn't mean you're celebrating. It doesn't mean you're cold-hearted. It just means your compassion has limits. And those limits are often shaped by how much compassion someone showed in their lifetime. There's actually something psychologically healthy about noticing that boundary. You're not obligated to manufacture sorrow for someone who never extended any to you, your community, or people you care about. You can hold both, I don't wish this on anyone, and I don't feel sad about it either. That's not cruelty, that's honesty. And it feels really weird and uncomfortable to hold both of those in your body at the same time. This isn't about telling you not to be compassionate. It's about giving you permission to notice whatever you honestly feel or don't feel and trust that it's valid.
I'm just gonna put this out here. If you're going to use Charlie Kirk's sayings against him, why don't use the entire phrase and not the little bit that you need to fit your narrative? I keep seeing people use short little clips of his sayings just to fit what they're trying to say, which is trying to justify him being murdered because of what he said. But if you continue on with the entire sayings that he says, it doesn't fit what you're trying to say. But, oh yeah, people do that to the Bible too. You take verses and you switch them around, or you only use a small clippet to use it against Christians. So I guess it only makes sense that you guys wouldn't pay attention to the entire thing and only use the part that makes what you want to say feel better. Charlie Kirk didn't believe in empathy. Why don't you use the whole saying that he said? He likes to use sympathy or compassion better. He believed in sympathy and compassion. Empathy is a word that we have taken and we have completely blown up into what it doesn't mean.
There was a man who was drowning in the ocean, and he prayed for God to save him. A lifeguard swam up and said, I'm here to save you. The man said, no, God will save me. A guy in a canoe came up to him and said, hey, get on, I can help you out. The guy said, no, God will save me. A fucking boat goes by and says, hey, hop on, we can save you. The man says, no, God will save me. The man drowns and dies. In heaven, he goes up to God and he says, "Why didn't you save me? I prayed to you." And God said, "I sent you a fucking boat." Charlie Kirk's boat was gun control. Gun control would have prevented his death. And he said, no gun control. If a couple of students have to die in school every year just so we can uphold the Second Amendment, I'm okay with making that sacrifice. Well, here we are. This man didn't care about a genocide happening in Palestine at the hands of Israel. This man doesn't care about a woman being sexually assaulted and needing physical treatment to help with that. This man restlessly made fun of George Floyd after his death. He doesn't care about queer people, he doesn't care about women, he doesn't care about anyone that's not a straight white man. Why should I care about him? He didn't care about me. He didn't care about so many people. He was shot by a sniper rifle from around 2 football fields away. That's not something you can pick up at your local Walmart. Gun control would have prevented his death, and he actively fought against it. I'm not going to feel sympathy for someone who rejected the lifeguard that was sent to save him. And I do think we will be better off without a hateful person in the world.